right-footed copy. Oh! Bang! That one goes down. Champions! He takes that chance. Aguero!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Sports Fans Network. I am the CHALL. Welcome to the Premier League report, bringing you the latest breaking news stories and topical discussions around the Premier League and its clubs. Erik Ten Hag has been sacked by Manchester United with immediate effect. We're going to get into all of this, showcase my thoughts on the news, showcase a couple of candidates that I'd like to see as the next manager, and talk to you guys about what happens next for the Red Devils. Now, before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you never miss another YouTube video. Check out all of our content coming up this week and over the last week. We've got some European content for you to check out. We're going to have that coming up again next week. So not this week, but next week when Europe comes back. We're going to have some more European reviews. We've also got FA Cup this week with 4 games in 4 days, which we announced on our social media accounts. Please make sure you go and follow all of them. Links in the description down below as well. And for now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get straight into this video and let's talk about the departure of Erik Ten Hag as Man United manager. So we start off as always with the club's official statement, and it says the following. Erik Ten Hag has left his role as Manchester United men's first team manager. Erik was appointed in April 2022 and led the club to 2 domestic trophies, winning the Carabao Cup in 2023 and the FA Cup in 2024. We are grateful to Erik for everything he's done during his time with us, and we wish him well for the future. Ruud van Nistelrooy will take charge of the team as interim head coach, supported by the current coaching team, whilst a permanent head coach is recruited. So first of all, before we talk about my thoughts on who I think could be good replacements for Erik Ten Hag as permanent managers or head coaches, let's talk about first of all the departure of Erik Ten Hag. Now, as always, I'm not fence-sitting for the sake of it. I'm literally doing the proper presenter and reporting thing and looking at both sides of the argument. I'm not a Ten Hag inner, I'm not a Ten Hag outer. Because at the end of the day, I want to see both sides of the argument. Now, first of all, the positives. What has Ten Hag done right? Well, he's brought in a better quality of player than I think other managers have done in the past. And I do firmly believe that. When you look at the signs this summer, Matej De Ligt, Mazraoui, you've got Manuel Ugarte, you've got Lenny Yoro, albeit we've not seen the major parts of him during his, obviously with his major injury spell so far this season. So he's only just coming back, so it'd be good to see more of Yoro in this new setup. But he did bring in a good standard of player. There were some good players being brought in. There were some other players that were being moved on from the football club that I think deserved to be moved on, not because they weren't good enough, but because I think they needed a new, fresh challenge. People like Scott McTominay, for example. Now, I, off camera, have in the past been critical of Scott McTominay and players like Harry Maguire in the past, but I reserve my judgment and say, look, you know, if they're going to play for Manchester United, let's see what they can do in individual games. Do I think they're going to be starters for United going forward? Probably not. But obviously, Scott McTominay moved on to Napoli. As far as I'm aware, he's doing all right there. I think Napoli are 4 points clear. I'm not too sure. Someone's definitely 4 points clear of Syria. I think it might be Napoli because I think Conte's there. So he's doing something right anyway. It's a new challenge for him, and the players that moved on have got new challenges to look forward to. In terms of Ten Hag, at the end of the day, he's gone 7 consecutive seasons winning at least 1 trophy, so he has that record to leave on, and he can go to his next club with that record intact, hopefully, depending if it's a club in Europe or not. But overall, Ten Hag leaves with an okay trophy record. Now, what about the reason why he's been sacked? And I think it's very, very clear. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no PRing it or anything like that. 14th in the Premier League and bottom half of the Europa League phase. And they've not won in Europe for a year. That's, you know, obviously there's context to the European 1 year, curse, defunct, delay, curse. You know, there is context to that with the fact that Manchester United weren't in Europe for a while. For I think in the recent season they weren't in Europe at all. So there is that thing to go off. But at the end of the day, the record still stands. But if we focus on more of the other stats going into why he's been sacked, 14th in the Prem and bottom half of the Europa League phase. In my personal opinion, being brutally honest, at the end of the day, for a club the size of Manchester United, who should be finishing minimum top 4 and at least challenging in a trophy final or going to win a trophy most seasons, if not every season, the standard should be much better than that. And there's been times in games where I've seen fan channels, I've seen supporters blame referees, VAR, for overall managers' tactical mistakes, players' fault, and there's been a lack of calling out from some channels. I won't say names at all. I'm not petty like that. And I'm not trying to indirectly drop little hints or anything like that. Big up to people like Saeed TV who said it from the start. I did fully agree with him. And, I think the time was right. I'm someone personally, from a neutral perspective, was willing to give Ten Hag a bit more time. But when I look at the Premier League table, when I look at the Europa League record right now, when I look at the fact that they're not winning Europe for a year, it was the right time. He can go out on that 7 consecutive years with at least one trophy record in all clubs in those 7 years, and he can go with my best wishes anyway for his next endeavour. I really hope Ten Hag gets a chance somewhere else, because for me, I feel like some of the player power at that football club still exists. I think that kind of overruled him slightly. So I wish Ten Hag nothing but the best. Hopefully he gets a chance elsewhere in Europe to really prove United wrong. But at the end of the day, the time was right. Now then, what about who could come in to replace Erik Ten Hag? Let's go into my couple of candidates that I'd like to see as the next United manager. So we are kicking off with Rúben Amorim, the 3-4-3 expert at Sporting Lisbon. Yes, he's a previous trophy winner. Yes, he plays some good football. I think that's probably two main factors to why I'd like to see United try and buy him out of his Sporting Lisbon contract. And people can tell me all sorts, don't let it, it can't be done. United can't pay out a Sporting Lisbon contract. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. They're Manchester United. At the end of the day, I'm not being brutal. I'm not being harsh. I'm not being disrespectful to Sporting Lisbon, because Sporting Lisbon are a fantastic club. They're one of the most underrated clubs in Europe, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it's Manchester United. In my opinion, I think they can afford to pay someone out of their contract, especially someone like Rúben Amorim, who for me is one of the most underrated managers in Europe. And the reason why is because he's a serial winner. And I think it was quoted somewhere that he's actually got this feeling, this congestual feeling of this will to win, or wanting to win. It was quoted saying he has this will to win. And I like that. I like that in a manager. I think he'd suit Manchester United. He'd work with Ineos, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the board, to get some of the players who aren't in his plans out of the door. Don't forget, in my personal opinion, under the Glazers, when they were running the football side of it for years, there's certain players in that club that should have left a long time before they did, or haven't left yet. And I think part of that was due to the Glazers, and the fact that the player power was held over the ownership power and the managerial power, and the manager just had to deal with what he had to deal with. So, for me personally, I think that Rúben Amorim would have a lot more say in who stays and who goes. And the players wouldn't be held as accountable with power as much as they sometimes do nowadays, or in the past few years. So I think that Amorim would get some of these players out and get some really good players in to work with some of the players there is. And don't get me wrong, in the 3-4-3, there's some players that could really work in Amorim's system. I think Mazraoui as a wing back with Dalot could work very, very well. Obviously, Dalot's an ex-Porto player. He'll have come up against Sporting Lisbon. He'll have known the Portuguese way. I think that he'll have studied Amorim personally. I swear Diego Dalot and Amorim know each other anyway. But I think that, for me, I think that Dalot would do really well in a 3-4-3. And I think that Amorim would do some really good stuff at United. Now, one coach in this list who I think hasn't won as many trophies as the other two, but I think could still be given a chance of the big job, is Stuttgart manager Sebastian Hoeneß. Now, he's a tough one, because for me, I would say that he's a up-and-coming manager who needs the big stage to prove himself. But the gamble question is there. Is it worth the risk now? At the end of the day, I think he won silverware with Bayern Munich's second team in the third division of German football a few years ago. He hasn't won much silverware since. However, he did get Stuttgart into the Champions League this year. Of course, finishing second place above Bayern Munich, behind the invincible champions of the Bundesliga, Bayern Leverkusen, under the management of Xavi Alonso. And for me personally, I would think that Sebastian Hoeneß is the least serial winner of the lot that could be in for this role. Would he leave Stuttgart? It's very, very hard. And I'm not saying that because people would think, oh, it's Manchester. Again, same with Rúben Amorim. This is one thing I forgot to say about Rúben Amorim. yes, it's Manchester United, but at the end of the day, if they think they're building something more with Sporting Lisbon or Stuttgart, respectively, then at the end of the day, they're going to stick with their projects. But for me, Sebastian Hoeneß has the opportunity to win some decent trophies with United if he decides to go there and if he is an option on the list. So he plays decent football. I'd say he plays good football. There's some good defensive aspects to it. I think the defensive backline would suit better with Hoeneß. But I would say that Hoeneß plays effective football at times. It gets results and it gets victories. So for me, Hoeneß would be a good manager. Yes, he hasn't won a lot of silverware. I do know the risk about that. At the end of the day, people need to realise football's about winning trophies. It's not about finishing a place higher every season. Obviously, for some other clubs it is. But for the big clubs, the big serial winners like United, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, your Tottenhams, your Liverpools, your Cities, your Barças, your Real Madrids, it's about winning trophies. The serial winners is about winning trophies. And Manchester United are a serial winner. So you need a serial winning manager. So that is the massive gamble with Sebastian Hoeneß. And finally is AC Milan's manager, Paulo Fonseca. Now, Paulo is, again, like I said, 4-2-3-1, good football. He's a winner. He's a serial winner. He's won many, many trophies in the past. He plays a good, effective style of football. There's some good attack to it. Sit in the opposition's half, counter them, press, wait for attacks, trigger the press at the right moments, don't get caught out at the back, play some decent football. And of course, like I said, he's a serial winner. And for me, I think United need another serial winner. I think they need to keep going with serial winners. Don't get me wrong, if Carlo Ancelotti's time's up at Real Madrid, then you'd look at him. Forget the rivalry with Chelsea, forget all the stuff with, Real Madrid and, all things like that. If Ancelotti's available, if Ancelotti leaves Real Madrid and he becomes available for Manchester United, go and get Ancelotti. But for me, if Ancelotti's not available, you've got Amorim, you've got Hoeneß as a gamble, you've also got people like Paulo Fonseca. Xabi Alonso could be an option as well, but I've gone with Fonseca in this one as a third option because for me, I think that he's, like I said, a serial winner. He's won trophies, plays good football, and I think he'd get that team a bit more organised as well. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this video about the sacking of Erik Ten Hag and who I think could be next for Manchester United. As we mentioned in the club statement, Rúben van Nistelrooy will take interim charge for now until a permanent head coach or manager will be appointed. So we'll keep you all up to date with the news on that. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I am the CHALL. Ta-ra for now. That is full time here on SFM.
Right foot to copy.